Today is the 18th of June, 2022. Thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, and go to my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydoribell.com. So, really quickly, because there was a clip regarding the 5, I'll post the link in the information section for this official YouTube video of mine, so that way you know what I'm referring to. So the 5 was discussing the situations regarding the Supreme Court justices, Roe v. Wade, and a few other factors regarding several situations. So Greg Gutfeld had his opinion in regards to certain individuals who have had the time to do certain things, and then also brought forward a few situations in regards to the different rights that individuals have. And that's something, in my opinion, regarding constitutional rights and amendments that is important to take in consideration. So yes, while you have freedom of expression, while some people have their opinion of what freedom of expression is, the United States of America was founded in Judeo-Christian principles. And while over the time frame, yes, there have been obviously amendments. That's why it's called the Constitutional Rights and Amendments. So in these particular factors, these amendments, some of them have kind of muddled and mucked up the proverbial waters in that sort of way, where some people have done certain interpretations because of the differences in opinions. The fact is, though, the United States of America was founded on the Judeo-Christian religious background, not in one particular religion. It is the basic foundation of the Judeo-Christian values. You can see that literally in regards of the Old Testament, which is considered part of the Torah, and that would be the Judeo portion, and Christian as to the New Testament. So there's kind of the all-in-one situation in that reference. So the basic foundation of the Judeo-Christian values is the 10 Commandments. So in reference to what Greg Gutfeld had brought up in regards to the freedom of expression, well, that's within the 10 Commandments. Very simple. Those rules in the 10 Commandments are very, very simple. They're literally one sentence. That's how simple they are. I would just say, they're literally one sentence. That's it. That's all. It's just one sentence. It's that simple. Judge Janine, being a judge, may have some, judicial background. She could possibly, being a judge, before she did commentary in regards of the 5, may hypothetically have a little bit to say regarding the fact that with one sentence, it's pretty simple. You can try to interpret it whatever way you want. It's still you can change all sorts of words. Guess what? It's one sentence, pretty simple. You can argue back and forth. It doesn't change. One sentence is one sentence. It's that simple. Possibly. I don't know how many. She's probably dealt with quite a few. Nonetheless, that's the facts. So you have the female Jessica, and she had brought up certain references regarding the left compared to the right, which is true. She is accurate. On both sides of the aisle, there have been certain situations that have occurred. And so the reality of whichever side you stand on, it doesn't change that fact that there have been certain situations that have been problematic on both sides, that both sides, whether they like it or not, that is the facts. You can even see it in reference to the irony of politics. Yes, you can, because you can see where, in regards of elected officials, when certain political aspects occur, well, in regards of the left, no, that's those people. Yeah, no, that's those people. Same thing in regards to, no, that's those people. You can literally see it in however many different sorts of situations. And see, so I have this viewpoint in that reference. So then you have Dagan. And Dagan, I do like her attitude, I really do. I wish I had met her in quite a few situations in comparison to some certain situations that I have dealt with, because that's the type of Southerner that I could... It's a personal opinion, you know, because I'm sure she's heard this term of bless your heart and that sort of thing. And it's like, what do you, wait, what do you mean in that reference? And then having to have explained to me, you know, that's the type of Southerner that I could very easily understand in comparison, because, you know, I'm sure she would especially understand. I've usually heard, well, bless your heart, which in my translation is, oh, well, yeah, you know, and so, you know, if it were to be said, well, bless your heart, that I'd understand, that I would understand in comparison, though it also depends on the situation, because I also have the viewpoint of, well, what's going on in your life that you might have a different tone of voice. Because I know myself, so if somebody were to be as blunt as Dig and be like, well, bless your heart. Okay, well, thank you, but is there something going on, you know, so on and so, would you like to talk about, you know, sort of situation. And then there's, okay, so I don't deny it. I think that's a little cutie patootie Marine. That's a little cutie patootie Marine. So, you know, I have to go through all the other stuff, because that's cutie patootie Marine. I have a thing, because I find him to be a little cutie patootie. It's my personal opinion, so, you know, it's a thing. I don't deny it, a little cutie patootie Marine, but his name is, whatever his name is. No. It's Joey Jones. Yeah, cutie patootie Marine. I personally like that nickname better, personally, despite the fact that this is a more serious commentary. At the same time, I can still be myself. And so, you know, little cutie patootie Marine, and that's just how I'm going to refer to him, because that's just what I'm going to do. And because he's a little cutie patootie. And he's a Marine. But nonetheless, you know, I know that there are people who haven't believed that Marines have intelligence. That's kind of been an annoyance to me. This is I have to acknowledge my own bias before I go into the commentary in regards of what they were discussing. Again, I'll put the link in the information section of my official YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe to my official YouTube channel. And go to my website, www.susanmeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. So a lot of people that I've known throughout the years, they have viewed the Army as a mediocre sort of intellectual level. They have looked at the Air Force as a higher intellectual level. They haven't ever acknowledged the Coasties, which, you know, I will give a reference to that in a minute. And then, you know, Marines are similar in some ways, where it's not viewed prior times as the intellectual level at the same aspect, because people have viewed the propaganda in comparison to ever taking in consideration that they're human beings, and they do have the capacity of, they have officers just as they have an equivalent, I'm sure, I don't know if it's chief warrant officers, but they also have enlisted. And so instead of taking in consideration the irony of ironies as to quite a few individuals who, the terminology I more recently learned is MK Ultra-ing, they view in prior situations, from what I've had in discussions, as to, well, you know, the Marines only follow that propaganda in comparison to how they actually have an intellectual level. In my opinion, when it comes to Marines, just as aggressive as they can be, I mean, they are nicknamed devil dogs, you know, as far as their aggression when it comes to World War II and their training and everything like that, just as aggressive as they can be in the physical factors is just as intellectual as they can be. There are the references regarding General Mattis, or General Mattis, who very much had pushed for his Marines to educate themselves, to read books. It didn't matter whether they were enlisted or whatever ranking of. He actually pushed that. And that's important, in my opinion. Then you have the Navy, which kind of has certain similar views regarding the Air Force's that particular situation as to the intellectual capacities. In which, yes, in all 5 of the branches, you obviously do have intellectual capacities. You wouldn't have the higher ranking enlisted, which obviously they started as lower ranking enlisted, if they didn't have certain intellectual capacities. Same thing in regards of chief warrant officers or whatever equivalent of, and then officer ranks. Of course, that's a capacity. Now, in reference to the Coasties, I personally haven't had the understanding how Coast Guard individuals haven't really been noticed as much, because literally whenever people, and here goes to that MK Ultra-ing terminology, where they literally are the Coast Guard. How many people have said that they're going to go to the coast? Well, guess what? You have this thing usually at certain beaches called a lifeguard. Well, guess what? Guess what the Coast Guard does? It guards the coast. Kind of similar to how lifeguards, they guard the lives of the people in the water. Surprise. And yet not. So, there is something that I had learned many years ago, and I really don't actually want to refer to it, and yet I can't help it because, well, I was born and raised in New Jersey, so I can make this particular joke in this particular reference. Since, you know, there's the joke that I made in regards of, well, General George Washington's private office, which you know how males usually do their business, is a private office, and so his private latrine out behind Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. I thought that people had the knowledge that in the Revolutionary War time frame, they didn't have plumbing. So I had this thought, it was funny to say, well, you know, private latrine and stuff like that is the same thing, because, you know, there's the saying of the pot, okay? I didn't ever think that people would actually not understand that. Then again, I assisted my biological father to build a 5-car garage with a shed attached, as well as do a lot of maintenance on the house in New Jersey, as well as the house in Illinois, as well as the houses in San Antonio. And then when it came to my house in Carrollton, you know, there's that. It wasn't at the same capacity, but that sort of knowledge base as to how structures are built. And I actually took woodworking or carpentry when I was in 8th grade. And so I learned a lot in that capacity. And so I know the difference of a building that has plumbing put into it compared to a building that doesn't. It's very easy to distinguish that. And as many monitoring devices as there are, it is one of those, So I didn't really think that anybody wouldn't know that. So in this particular reference, not many people think about the Coast Guard. I don't know why. It is as it is. I've known about the Coast Guard possibly because I was born and raised in New Jersey. And the knowledge that there's a coast around the entire United States of America and other areas too. Now, I don't know what other countries call their versions of Coast Guards. Maybe they call them navies, maybe they call them Marines. I don't know what they call them. Though I know that the Coast Guard works with both the Navy and the Marine Corps. So in this combined reference, so I was informed at Half Price Books, they have this small book. And it's one of the highest selling books, mainly because it's right by the cash register and all that sort of stuff. And people just find it funny, and it's the history of farts, okay? Well, there is a term called silent but deadly. And so since nobody really thinks about the coasties as much, and I know how the oceanic waters can be off of the coastline of New Jersey, well, yeah. Again, congratulations to the first female commander of the Coast Guard for the United States of America. And there is a very good example when you take that into consideration. Because I bet nobody saw that the first female commander was going to be in the Coast Guard of the United States of America. So in this reference to that, again, congratulations. I thought that was a perfect, I think the term is segue, not the little electronic thingamabob that you ride along. Just for that clarification, see, I can make jokes. I don't know whether or not they're actually funny to other people. However, they're funny to me, and I can acknowledge having a bit of a twisted sense of humor at times. In a few ways, not just because I wear corsets, and sometimes the corset strings get tangled and they twist, especially if you wear. And I'm not talking about the song, Twist and Shout or anything like that at all, just for those particular references, just in case. So, in the reference of Roe v. Wade, well, yes, there is both sides. You have the right to life situations where it should be a right to choose, and then you have the abortion situations, and it depends of the situations overall. I personally, I know there are reasons that females have the choice to get an abortion. That is for them to choose. If they choose to have the child, or in my case, children, because of the situations, that was my choice. Yes, I know I could have gotten an abortion for both of my children. I know that, especially with my own standards. However, I made the choice to have both my son and my daughter because I knew that I could do better. I knew that I appreciated life. Personally, for me, because I appreciate life, that is why. It was not because of how I was raised. If anything, because of how I was raised, with my biological mother and my biological little sister having been Democrats, which is more well known among the Democrat side, I made the choice, despite knowing at the time frame of in the year of 2000 and 2001, despite knowing I morally and ethically in that situation, by my own standards, would have that capacity. However, I made the choice to have both my son and my daughter because I knew that it was life that I appreciate. I knew that I could make a more positive impact on life in a larger way. It wasn't in what some people view as political. I knew that I could bring forward a larger amount of aspects. And I knew that I could make a world and a life for my son and my daughter in a way that would be better and hopefully would expand outward from that. I didn't have to, in reference to my own standards, which I've had discussions well before I put it in writing regarding finding a silver lining, which is in my book section on my website, www.susanmealing.com. Again, the same as www.ladydoribell.com. I knew that in reference to my own standards, that I could. However, I made the choice myself. It wasn't for anybody else to make the choice for me. I did extra research to make sure that while, yes, I was still dealing with the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And yes, I still had the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, which lasted a total of 8.5 years. Yes, I knew that. I understood that. I made attempts to explain to people what I was dealing with, what it was viewed as, or whatever their interpretations or perceptions were, is exactly that. That wasn't for anybody else to make a decision for me at all. I actually had wanted to be a mom in comparison to most likely because I had gotten involved with the San Antonio pagan community. And because in the San Antonio pagan community, you have all sorts of Democrat leftists, a lot of liberals. And in those time frames, I did not get along with those leftist liberals at all. I got along with some, I could have discussions, but as far as viewpoints, there were certain things we agreed upon, and then there were many things we disagreed upon. And so those particular individuals in that San Antonio pagan community, or now Military City, USA, in comparison to San Antonio, those individuals had absolutely no right to involve themselves in regards of what I was dealing with in the capacities of. A lot of them were a lot of college students and thought that they had the knowledge and understanding when, okay, sure, I can acknowledge, I can learn things in a multitude of situations. Yes, I learned what the definition was. That didn't translate to anybody going and getting involved with my stuff. That wasn't an invitation in reference to any of those people regarding my life at all. I actually had wanted to be a mom to my son. I wanted to be a mom to my daughter. I didn't need any of those types of those people thinking that they had any input that would ever be beyond in the intellectual level, unless they could have actually pointed me in the direction where the irony of irony, as many leftists, especially females that want to claim that they are feminists when in this hypothetical capacity of being a feminazi, those particular types, they don't have the right to choose as an irony regarding a mom. That's been a problem that leftists have needed to understand. If a mom chooses to have a child, the only thing that you have a right to do is give information that can assist and or inform the individual themselves of the locations for them to go to and or introduce them specifically in the capacity of where the understanding would be, especially as many leftists go on about intellect, their college degrees and pieces of paper, so on and so forth, in that comparison. So in regards of the right side, in that reference, the right side, as far as religion and so on and so forth, that Judeo-Christian aspect, those individuals who are about family and life, they understand that there is both, you cannot have life without death. You literally can't even give birth to give life without death. And for this particular metaphor, when someone gives life or gives birth, what was in the past is what was in the past. So that single life is automatically over. It doesn't matter whether or not you have a spouse, that single life is over. When you are a mom, after you give birth, you literally have to think about yourself, but also the life of that child, or in the references of children. That's something that has been needed to take into consideration. So yes, I understand reasons. It does not translate, though, for those leftist types to force their views on other people, just as similarly regarding the right side in regards of the religious factor. They don't have the right to go and push their views onto other people if they disagree, because then you just stir up a bunch of needless problems. And so in regards to, I was doing what was best for myself, my son, and my daughter. I didn't need these situations regarding the viewpoints of. So where in regards of the San Antonio pagan community, and yes, I learned the term of abuse. I knew what was going on was wrong, but everybody else wasn't paying attention to the details of. I went and utilized those words, and then the irony of ironies, my biological mother and biological father being a deacon and a trustee for several years at Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, well then there's that irony of problems because of their ignorance as to thinking that you need to have both a male and a female. There are plenty of females who have been single moms that have done the best that they can for their child and or children, and if it wasn't for either side, whichever one, thinking that they knew better in comparison to the actual situations, if those needless situations of stirring up needless drama didn't occur, that single mom, or in my case, myself, would have been capable to take care of my son and my daughter without those needless problems. At all. I had taken every step and measure to do so as best as I could. If it wasn't for other people thinking they had a right to interject themselves into my life, and in that reference as well to my son and my daughter's lives, that set of situations would not have been as they were. If those people that I once knew had made the correct choices and actually asked me, in comparison to thinking just because of the after effects of my head injury that I didn't have the capacity to think, that's actually what's wrong in those references. So in those capacities, as to individuals who have needed to understand that, though at this point in the year 2022, obviously, that is a different situation. So individuals who I have spoken with in person, face-to-face in person, possibly may have read things that I had written online, well, and or my books, obviously I've been capable to think the whole time. Just because I had to be retaught the names of colors or retaught how to count, that doesn't translate to the lack of capability to think. That doesn't translate to the lack of capability as certain types have thought. This has been the problem, where other people have thought that they are more intelligent than they are. I told a few people in person, face-to-face in person, the most intelligent person will tell you that they know nothing at all, or whatever the limited capacities of. And the dumbest people will tell you they know everything. If somebody tells you they know everything, what do they actually know everything of? And where can you find where they've been inaccurate? Will they acknowledge if they have been? If they acknowledge that they have been inaccurate, well, then there is that intellectual capacity in comparison. So, regarding the Roe v. Wade situation, well, I can see both sides yet again. I can see the reasons for both sides. But there is that capacity. So when you take in consideration my biological mother and biological father having been a deacon and a trustee of a Presbyterian church, trying to hide behind the religious aspects, well, I see the left side where, well, you say you're about life, and yet when there are situations at the exact moment in time that you could actually do something that would actually be assistive, you care more about whatever the references are. In comparison, I can also see the left side in regards to, well, you know, we want to do things our way, but sometimes those leftists need to understand there are reasons for, yes, I know the term law and order. So in a different capacity in this reference, though a metaphor, so the term law and order that President of the United States of America 45, Donald J. Trump, and his administration had brought forward during the 2015 and 2016 election cycle. Throughout the 2016 through 2020 cycle of time, as to President of the United States of America Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America. Law and order. This in reference to the Supreme Court justices and that particular reference of individuals going to different houses or whatever capacities of. So in the year of 2009, I earned 26 scuba diving certifications. And the civilian recreational scuba diving sector, what they call themselves as to recreational scuba divers, in comparison, they had a problem when I brought up that there needed to be scuba diving police or scuba diving law enforcement. I had already explained to these people about my background. I didn't go into, pun intended, into the depths of, to the details. I had informed them that I was invited to attend Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment as far as the testings, all that stuff. I had informed them that I'm medically retired from the Army. I informed them that I didn't graduate basic training from the Army, but I'm medically retired from the Army. I did not inform them of my clearance level at the time when I was 17 years old. Though, for those who have a military background in certain capacities, they would have a sign as to what my clearance level when I was 17 years old was. As far as those who would understand that. And yes, I was going to be in logistics. Now, as a real quick side note, individuals who know how, especially during the time frame of the year 2000 into the early 2000s, those who pay attention to the news and or elected aspects have the knowledge that in the year of 2000 there were issues regarding finances for the armed forces of the United States of America. The situations at the time frame of 1999 into 2000 were situations regarding the 42nd President of the United States of America, Bill Clinton, as to the active duty National Guard and reservists. Not in reference to veterans, in reference to active duty National Guard and reservists, as well as their dependents, and payments, as far as I was concerned. And even though I knew what was going on at the time, it was one of those, well, I'll do what I can. Veterans were still being taken care of to the best of at that point in time. And it was, well, I know that my nightmare from second grade, yes, I know it is what it is. Nonetheless, it's needed. And when I was 17 years old and capable to actually be in the Army, well, I wasn't looking at having a car at that time. And I was just going to live in the barracks and all that sort of stuff and do what was needed at that point in time. Comparison. So I didn't have that same sort of situation that some have when they have family and all that stuff in the military. in regards of my nightmare at the time, I knew that being within a vicinity of the military installation of whichever branch or division, I would be capable to give assistance where I could. And so it didn't matter to me. It's not that it didn't matter, it was more along the lines of I knew that in order to preserve life, as well as protect and defend the United States of America, as well as the citizens of, there were certain things I'd have to do. Well, my MOS, logistics, I very much am, as you can take in consideration, the term is OCD, but I call it CDO, because I'm that CDO that I would alphabetize the letters of OCD to CDO in those references. And that was before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 during basic training. I completed the CCC and the COC course, the first go round. And with the knowledge as those at the top levels of whatever aspects would be capable to take in consideration, first and foremost, I was invited to attend Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. Despite the situations regarding my biological mother and biological father in those hypotheticals of regarding my biological little sister complaining because she wasn't invited to attend MAST, and she knew she wasn't going to ever be in that capacity of, well, there's those references as to those particular situations. And so the knowledge of what it is to attend Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, you have to have a certain background and clearances automatically before you could actually attend. I was invited. So in that particular reference, it was not the same as scouting, and yet, so remember, by the time I was invited to attend Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, I had no online social media at all. The only technology aspects that I had been involved with was coding. My biological mother worked at Prudential in the 1980s and 1990s doing information technology engineering before all of the little different types of certifications and subsects and all that sort of stuff. My biological father had attended and been certified by the School of Bulova, capable to work on Rolexes, Bulevas, Seikos, and all sorts of other watches, as well as certified gemstones, and do all sorts of other things. This was obviously something that MAST would have known about. Then you have to take in consideration regarding the coasties having basic training in the area of New Jersey shoreline. And I had explained to the scuba divers in that civilian sector that I had gone out to the oceanic areas and swam out to the buoys. Well, there's usually boats in certain areas. The buoys themselves, depending on the type, have certain cameras in those references. I don't know if there's any on land references. I know that more recently I've seen Facebook videos where people have posted putting a camera in an area and the wildlife goes up to the camera or does its own thing, and that observation sort of factor. Well, I used to go out to the buoys as a child. And so I've explained this to people. So there are those who know, and yes, I have 3 of these certifications for scuba diving. I have film or underwater film photography scuba diving certification. I have underwater digital photography certification, and I have underwater videography certification for scuba diving. Those are 3 of my 26 scuba diving certifications I earned. And so I was born and raised in New Jersey in the 1980s and 1990s. And there's a huge technology hub along the East Coast, as far as the States. And so, to me, it was common sense. I didn't need the words to explain that, yeah, okay, well, here's this. And, I used to swim out to the buoys. And I'd, stand on, at that point, because the water levels have raised, I used to stand on the netting that connected some of the buoys. For those who don't know what that would look as, there were certain areas that had these big orange balls, okay? And these big orange balls were probably about 4.5 feet in diameter, and they were attached and had a central line, which would be the rope regarding what kept them in location. If you go to the Gulf of Mexico, you can see a version of near the Lexington as to the jet skiers, okay? And so instead of that, in reference to where I would go swim out to, because the Atlantic area, the oceanic waters, it's not like the Gulf of Mexico. It's much deeper and the waves are much stronger. And so I would go out to this area. If you don't know what that looks as, if you've ever been to an Olympic pool and you've seen the lane dividers, and they have the little spinny doohickey mabobs that are along that line. Well, those bigger pieces that separate the colors and everything like that just expanded to about, 4.5 feet in diameter and every so many yards instead of directly next to each other, okay? And that's just one of the buoys, and I'd go out there and now, in comparison to back then when I was a child, as a child, I didn't have any consideration that there could be a camera in there. I just thought it was fun to get out there. And then because the ball spun as a child, I thought it was fun. So I'd take a hold of the little buoy ball, whatever, and I'd spin with it in the water because that was fun to me. And then I'd get on the rope and just kind of work on my balance and stuff like that and kind of stand up, and because of the waves especially, work on my balance. My biological mother and my biological father have to have some form of a memory when I was a child. This is after I had already been out to Point Pleasant by this point in time. And this is actually how I learned to stand and walk, by the way. So I'd go swimming, which I know that might be frightening now, but this is 2022, this isn't the 1980s, okay? And just think about that in regards to democratic policies, because New Jersey is known for that, for the Democrat side. So I'd swim out to that area, and it is what it is, or in regards of the jetties. And so I'd get out there and I'd pull myself up. Now, in regards of walking, as a toddler, when I was 2 years old, I would start on the floor as normal children do, and I'd get into the position of sitting there like this, or standing-ish, and then I'd stand up. And then I'd take a few steps, and if I sensed that I was gonna fall over, I'd really quickly go back down. Get my bearings, get my balance, and when I was ready, because, I'd slowly stand back up. And if I felt that it was, a point where I could fall over, I'd squat again and just be like, all right. Okay. And then I'd slowly stand back up. And then I'd start walking again. I don't know if my biological mother and or biological father remember that. That's where I learned that, is the ocean. There's a term, water baby. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I enjoy the water. That's just a thing. And so, that was just it is what it is. Anyway. I can make the joke. It's a different version of Baby Beluga. I figured, my outfit would be on point when it comes to that, you know? A different type of dancing. And so, in those references, so I had brought up to these section of the civilian recreational scuba divers as to the importance of scuba dive police, scuba dive law enforcement aspects. Now, I was referring to a few aspects to what I had been working on before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. The first individual that I had spoken with this about, before I could even get to any other aspect, those who know in reference to the poofy or puffer fish situation as to the Gulf of Mexico, it was one of those lead-up situations where, you know, okay, well, there's this, and go over the different details, and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and in comparison to how I was planning on doing things, he spat the food that I cooked out. I had even changed the recipe that I had usually cooked. So, not only, for those who cook, there are those references. And so not only did I make an alteration to what I normally cooked, then, now while my son and my daughter beforehand and all that sort of stuff, they already had dinner and everything like that, they got to eat and everything like that, and they liked it and all that, then this individual, the irony, he was in his second bowl and he was like, yeah, this is good. And then I bring up the scuba dive police because I was getting to the point of the reference to my underwater travel system that I created, and I was going to actually go into that. And instead, he spat out the food. Now, I can make a joke as to how I usually handle certain things. However, this was not in that capacity, okay? And so it was just one of those internal thoughts. Did you just spit out food I cooked? And so because he had already had one bowl beforehand, it was one of those, okay, be calm. Be calm. Okay, so he already ate one bowl, and it was a big bowl. It wasn't like it was a little bowl. Okay. So obviously it was good enough to have a second bowl. He was halfway through the second bowl. So, you know, internal thoughts are, oh. I take cooking very seriously. Okay. So maybe it was a piece of chicken that had, you know, maybe it was too big of a piece of chicken. Okay. Maybe some of the stuff the seasoning, maybe he bit a seasoning that I had, and instead of it just, you know, because some people who know about seasonings, you bite into a rosemary leaf and it'll wake you up real quick. Don't matter if it already seasoned the food. You take a bite when you're chewing your food and it'll, shoo, good morning. So yeah, maybe. And instead, he just kind of pushed the bowl off to the side, which anybody who cooks, are you full? Do you need to go back for that bowl of food? Like, I did what I could to remain calm, because what happened? And so then instead he goes, I moved a bunch of your fairies in your house. Which obviously was not what I was expecting to come out of his mouth a second time. So obviously, what I was going to go into, well, that discussion did not go that way. And so so again, I say CDO, okay? Okay, I say CDO, not OCD, CDO. What library I had, I organized my library alphabetically by section, and then I organized in each section alphabetically by author, and then if there was more than one book by an author, alphabetically by title. I had issues, I acknowledge it, I had issues when there were titles that were numerical compared to alphabetical, because then I had my own issues. And so, so he moved stuff in my house. And I'm about life, and yet I was born and raised in New Jersey. I had just finished a whole bunch of work in the ocean. Whole bunch of work. And so, remember, scuba diving is not recreational to me. And, maybe this might be the point in time where all those people who have said, I know how people are from New Jersey, maybe for that reference regarding my work in scuba diving. I don't know what the reference is, though. So, any certain types of guys, certain types of guys regarding military or certain types of contractor guys, when you have a relationship at the time and you've been out to the field or whatever and you're like, yep, got everything else taken care of, little lady. You know how good. And so instead, so there's Cutie Patootie Marine, okay? So he was in the Marine Corps. I don't know what his employment was in the Marine Corps, but he may have been overseas. And so he would have this particular understanding, possibly, where it's like, I got everything taken care and moved a bunch of fairies. And so I'm so CDO, I organize the letters OCD. And so doing what I could, so those who have ever been in a car with my biological mother and you've ever sped faster than 5 miles above the speed limit and or were within 500 yards of another vehicle in another lane. And you were driving in comparison and she was in the front passenger seat, that, so that's that, I'll acknowledge, all right, it took to that, you did what? And it's my house, I painted every inch of my house, I designed my house, I have I organized alphabetically my library in a clockwise manner, and then that alphabetized my author. So my little fairies and dragons. What? And then his response was, well, I just wanted to see whether or not you noticed I moved your fairies and dragons. So when I clean, I don't pay attention to certain things. I just clean. So it's not the same. And they you did what? And so then he got upset because he tattletaleed on himself. And then he got upset because he tattletaled on himself. I didn't even get to yelling. I didn't even raise my voice. I was just, this is literally what I was doing. In my house.
And he had already insulted the fact that I was not living in a homeowners association in my house. Purposely found my house so they didn't have homeowners association. And he lived in a homeowners association. So I said I did what I could to remain calm. My car is zippy, my little bumblebee VW Beetle. Like just in the driveway, and because she was already upset that I didn't take her with me to Florida. You know, and it's like, how am I supposed to fit you when, you know, I had my son, my daughter, my ex-sister-in-law's daughter, I had the luggage, and I already had this issue as far as my little bumblebee car being all whatever, and then this son of a bitch, I moved your fairies. I am so right to life. I am, because in the state of Texas, it's standard gun laws. See how much for life I have. Just putting this out there. See how much about life I have. Because remember, you know, there was silverware on my table. And I had literally less than 7 days before been at the area of Vandenberg handling business. Less than 2 weeks before I had been handling business out for Boca Raton area of Florida. And so ooh, and so my closet, especially at that time, so I had 2 closets, and they were organized by types of clothing, and then they were organized more by types of clothing, and then they were organized in rainbow order, and it started white, and then went red, and then orange, and then yellow, and green, blue, purple, brown, and black. That's how, in every area of all this section. You moved what? in my house. My son, my daughter are sleeping. In my house. And I have to remain calm. And I'm just... So then he got upset. I was like, it's not a big deal. Again, then he goes and runs away, ran through the area of my library. Oh, symbolism right there. He's just gonna go right through the area that I alphabetized by section and then alphabetized by author. And then alphabetized by title of book. And you don't understand. And I didn't even speak, okay? I didn't even light into him. And so he runs with his little tail tucked between. You know what? This is an irony regarding a vision I had in the year 2004 as to a... Anyway. And so I'd go run after him out to my back patio. And he's like, I don't understand what's wrong with you. And I watch in my backyard. I see a fairy ring start developing. And I look over at him and I take a look back in my house
and I see all of my fairies and my dragons rising. Because it's always best if I'm in a good mood than a bad mood. And so as he's all rah, 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 so then I go to respond, and he then throws a little bit of a temper tantrum and goes, yeah, no, no. Then he gets his little truck and drives off. So any ... guy. It's a different type of internal raging, pun intended, I suppose. And so then, because of where and how my house was in Carrollton, I look to diagonal and I see what is the area of my bedroom. Zippy. My little bumblebee, BW's beetle. Hush. And that's what my bumblebee car did. Yeah. The lights flashed. She made a few more sounds, and I just, no, not right now. I look over at the fairy ring in my backyard. Just all of the fairies and dragons in my house, as far as the statues that I had at the time, they all start swarming. Go. Just go. And they do. And so all the little fairies and dragons, they just flew. Yeah. Go. Right now, you guys don't wanna. I need to be calm. And so all I could do at that time was get my pack of cigarettes from my table, which anybody who's been enraged to some sort of level of, well, ironically, I had a soft pack in comparison to a hard pack. So I didn't remember that because I had purchased by the carton. So then I had to go inside and get a new pack of cigarettes, which anybody who's a smoker understands that. And it was a full pack of cigarettes too. So then there's that. And so it's just, okay. So then I had to pack a new pack of cigarettes that were soft pack cigarettes. And so then I had to get another pack of cigarettes because I forgot that it was a soft pack of cigarettes. So then there's that. I can laugh now as it's 2022. Comparison to back then in 2009. Mind you, I still have my bedroom in view. So no matter where I look, I'm just, and so then I have all the tobacco from my cigarettes on the table because of that. as a real quick, very different situation. In the year of 2016, I was talking with my son, who was in high school at the time. I went to pack my cigarettes on the steering wheel of my car. And my son and I go, what? And he goes, you moved your car packing your cigarettes. I was in an okay mood, by the way. My response was, oh, it's not like it's a car that's made out of chrome and steel. I mean, it's just an SUV. It's, it's no big deal. What? Okay, fine, I'll just get out of the car, I'll just pack the cigarettes on the ground. No big deal. That does, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. And he's just, you were packing cigarettes on your steering wheel and your car went like this. Again, it's not made out of steel and chrome. It's not a 69 Camaro RSSS 396 with a 396 cubic inch engine. Just saying, it's a little bit heavier of a car compared to that SUV. So, in comparison, that's 2016-ish time. So 2009. Soft pack of cigarettes. All that other stuff going on. So I think, if I remember correctly, it was either, well, if you count that, because maybe there was 2 cigarettes from the new pack, and then I think it was 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes, which anybody who smoked cigarettes understands that more so, and so to get another pack of cigarettes, and at that point it was like, okay, I'm not packing them. Not packing them. I will deal with just so I could get the nicotine to calm myself down right now. And there are those who understand this level to a degree. It's just like, Jesus, saw this tobacco on my patio table. I smoked every cigarette in that pack. I think the most amount of inhales I had per cigarette was something like somewhere between maybe 5 to 7 puffs before, okay, let me just have another, because I need to calm down. Then afterwards I go inside my house and then see that half-eaten and just Ooh, okay, no, that's fine. That's cool. I'll go. After walking through my library area, I was organized and said, no, and just no. I hate you, and I won't ever forgive you for that. Just so you know. So the only way you can fix and repair it is to actually fix and repair it correctly. Period and end of story. That's the end of it. Remove yourself fully. Situation. And so, wasn't anything of any value to me, because that's sort of needless drama. Well, I went and spoke with the civilian recreational scuba divers. And these civilian recreational scuba divers, they had a similar response, which I couldn't even get to in regards of the underwater travel system. Because instead, they freaked out over everything else in comparison to paying attention to what was important in comparison. So, law and order, well, that's important. So those civilian recreational scuba divers, it's similar to what I told people in regards of the left, because the left, they want to do, and you can see it in the 2020 election, they wanted to defund the police as far as that's concerned. And I had told people well before 2020, and I did put it in writing, if you do that, if that's what you choose to do, when you need to call 911, who are you going to call? When you need assistance, who are you going to call? It's 3 numbers. So I made attempts for years to get to people to ask what to do or discuss situations, and instead they wanted to do things their way in comparison to in an orderly way. They wanted to do things in their capacity. They wanted to go in the references of how they've gone to different locations and rioted and destroyed property in comparison to having any respect. Because actual respect is not destroying property. That's not what respect is. Causing any needless problems is literally exactly that. That doesn't show in any way any appreciation. And it goes to Greg Gutfeld's term in the video. Again, I'll put the link in there as far as the information section to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, share the link to my official YouTube videos, and go to my website, www.susanmeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydoribell.com. Because if you appreciate life, even if it's just your own life, you're not going to do certain things. That's just the facts. Even if it's just your own life in a selfish capacity, you are not going to be ignorant to do certain things. Even if it's just yourself, and in comparison, because of the Roe v. Wade, even if it's just your own life, you are not going to make certain choices that cause needless problems. If you care even about yourself. If you do. If you don't even care about yourself, then you're going to choose certain aspects instead. If you actually care about life, if you actually care, even if it's only about you, then you are going to make the correct choices for actual life to progress forward. Because if you take the reference of the movie I saw in the year 2008 regarding Alfred and all that, and watch the world burn, that thing. Well, that individual didn't go into the portion of, well, that individual himself didn't have life after that. Because when you do something like that, to that capacity, you don't have life after that. So that's why I haven't understood certain aspects. If you go and purposefully cause that sort of left aspect regarding needless drama or chaos, anarchy in that capacity, because that's the aspects of, you yourself don't even have a life. At all. It's ignorant to do so. That's why I haven't ever understood certain things. Because if you, in regards of how similar to my ex-in-laws, how their viewpoint to their dead relative, well, he's dead. That's the thing. And they didn't even pay attention to that, as far as that was concerned. They were too ignorant to even be appreciative of life, instead of actually learning from history. They decided to do as they did, which lets you know as to that. So when I have taken every precaution to actually make genuine attempts, because I'm about life, well, if you're actually about life, you're going to follow certain instructions to a T. And if you have any questions, you're going to ask. So I've brought up in regards of, well, there's only one person to ask regarding about my scuba diving. To this day, there's not anybody who has. At all. Not in any capacity of. If you want to wish that praying for it is, no, that's not asking. At all. I don't view it that way. I will ignore it. On purpose. Because it's only done a certain way. It is in an orderly aspect that it has to be done. It is not up to that sort of factor at all, no matter what. So, in regards of the situations regarding the metaphor of the civilian recreational scuba diving sector, and those types, as to those situations. Well, I don't know what they thought was going to occur in reference to. So their issues in the year 2009 was because I was not interested in becoming a scuba dive instructor in the civilian recreational area. I told them my reasons why. And when, again, in reference to making attempts as to scuba dive law enforcement, those types didn't want to pay attention to anything at all, whatsoever. They didn't see any intelligence in any capacity to anything I had to say. And I was literally prophesying to their faces exactly what was going to occur. I told them in no more than 13 years what was going to happen regarding the civilian recreational scuba diving sector if they did not heed my warnings. And instead, well, the choices are as the choices have been. So in regards of, well, a lot of them had voted for President of the United States of America 44, Barack Obama. And while they had been the way they had been, and again, I voted for Senator John McCain and Governor Sarah Palin. And I had not hidden that, I hadn't denied that at all. So there are those factors to take in consideration. And so while the 5, again, I'll put the link in the area of the information section for this official YouTube video of mine. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Be respectful of my work at all times. Have etiquette, which translates to actually respecting my work at all times. And read through my journal blog, The Ornery PSA. Share the links to my journal blog. Only the articles, by the way. That's what that's always been. It's not up for interpretation. Just for the clarifications, bringing that back around to the formation of the United States of America as to the Judeo-Christian aspects of 10 simple rules to follow. And so, some people, I guess the ones that actually need that explained, well, then they should acknowledge. So this is a different way to view, maybe for Republicans especially. In regards of the individuals as to how they bring up their degrees in comparison to 26 scuba diving certifications regarding certain types. Okay, so I'm going to pretend right now.
So you had to pay what? So that way you could what? So you didn't have the intellect at the point in time beforehand? And so instead of having the intellect beforehand, you needed to go to extra school, so that way your extra school could give you a little piece of paper, so that way you could have that piece of paper as your participation trophy to let you know that what you didn't know beforehand in that particular specialty of. So you had that piece of paper in that particular reference. Okay. Good for you. Congratulations.
You know, because in that reference to my basic training, so I completed the CCC course, the COC course, assisted with the UCMJ and a few other factors of, and then, yes, my MOS was supposed to be automated logistical specialist. Well, even after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I gave the reference to my library regarding that. And then in regards of other situations as to, well, etiquette and respect is actual etiquette and respect. You can actually go and look up online as far as the definition of, and if you have any questions regarding a few other factors, you have the common sense to ask respectfully. So if you ask respectfully, you ask respectfully. As many people who have in regards of, same thing with sincerely. So respectfully and sincerely because of that genuinity. You know, in comparison to certain other types that have that sensation that they think they have a right to something that they don't. And so when, you know, in regards of college degrees, okay, you worked for that. That's what you worked for. You want people to respect that. Well, guess what? I worked for what I worked for. So if you want the respect to your degrees, then you have to respect what I worked for. And that's the end of that. It's that simple. So in regards of law and order, well, it's the facts. And so in regards of the Supreme Court justices, well, there are protections. They know of that. They have that in comparison. So then there's my Medal of Honor art project trips. You don't show me respect for my work in regards of what occurred during my Medal of Honor art project trips. If you think that what occurred in the situations of was considered being respectful of my work, and I have very much informed otherwise, you do not actually have any rights to be upset by that at all, in any capacity. That would be the equivalent of a titty baby temper tantrum for me being upset in my house where a biological adult thought it wasn't a big deal to move stuff that he knew nothing about in my house, on my property, as to what my work actually is. And so those types as to, yes, I'm medically retired from the Army, I didn't graduate basic training, and I didn't go to AIT. Well, maybe there's a few examples as to why. Some people don't like to waste money. Some people just don't. And then there are other people. It's my opinion, as far as that's concerned. So when in regards of 1999 and 2000, I don't know if those people in any time frame regarding Democrats, I fought to be in the Army in the year 2000. I didn't care that 42 was a Democrat. When I was invited to attend MAST, 42 was in office. Maybe it's that MK Ultra word because of the 2000 election, even though they're not inaugurated into office until the following year. Common sense. Okay? Common sense. So important. So, cutie patootie Marine, he was on the 5. Thank for him. He's just cute. He's so cute. He's such a cutie. It's a personal opinion of mine. Nonetheless, I'm going to guesstimate because he could give commentary on the 5 that pretty much shows. So he may have even went to college because of certain situations regarding an educational background. All right, that's fine. I bet he could actually admit it though, in comparison to certain times, just say. And so, yeah, I do have the knowledge that, okay, well, 45 went from Democrat to Republican regarding voting as far as the presidency of. I've been a Republican since I could first vote. And there's certain situations regarding my work that hasn't been respected in the correct capacities. I'm just saying I have the capability of seeing both sides. And so, don't want to have to do certain things. Don't want to have to. But I was raised in the tri-state area, which is a heavily Democratic area. And I don't really like politics at all. And so I don't want to have to take a hint in that reference, because if I have to take a hint in that reference, well then, what does that say? After all these years, to the amount of work up, I'll still keep my hair red for more than just the Republican aspects, far more than just the Republican aspects. There's that spirituality that I brought around in regards of discussing that. For as many that are into sports, and having brought up that I'm a fan of the New Jersey Devils, and the New York Rangers, which both have red, by the way. And just pointing that out there. Well, then there's those factors. Just saying. I prefer when I'm in a good mood. It's best. I don't see certain things rising when I'm in a good mood. And so those scuba divers in that civilian recreational area, well, since they still haven't spoken with me in person, face-to-face in person, in a specific capacity of, which requires them to actually invite me. It's not any other way. It's no longer the time frames where it used to be. It's not that anymore. This is the current time. So when I brought up that way back when I was a child, I'm a biological adult now. When I was a child, people would ask me in those reference, I'm not a child anymore. It's just the facts. I'm not a child. I grew up. So in those regards, where what used to be is exactly that. That's what used to be. That's what it was then. That's not anymore. This is now. This is the year 2022. It doesn't go that way anymore. So in the year of 2020, you had the situations that occurred. You had literal physical signs. Literal physical signs, not metaphorical, literal. It's the changing of the times. So, in those regards, I've been a biological adult for a while. It's time for everybody else to grow up as well. The formation of the U.S. Space Force, after NASA has been around as long as they have, it's time to grow up. So my biological father had a saying, when men grow up from being boys, they put away their toys. Well, when I was a child, I heard that. And so I already had been having visions. So I put away my toys. I didn't play any more games after that. My biological mother and my biological father would be capable to very easily go into that. All I had was a few stuffed animals here and there. I didn't want any games because I looked at them as toys. I didn't want anything that was considered as child aspects because I saw that early. So in comparison to what other people have been as to whatever capacities of, that's just the way it's been. So where my biological little sister would play games with her little porcelain dolls and her little whatever of whatever, I didn't do that. I got into martial arts, okay? I got into gymnastics. I got into swimming in the official ways. I didn't do anything that was game-wise at all anymore. I thought that deeply as a child. So in regards of other factors, when you grow up, you make certain choices. And no matter how many people want to try, as far as other factors, those sorts of games aren't of an interest to me. I just haven't ever had that interest. So the last time that I willingly for myself, not for anybody else, willingly for myself had played a game was before I went to elementary school, okay? Around the time of just before going into elementary school for kindergarten is when my biological father said that. So, in that reference point of where life is not a game, I don't care that there's a board game or even an online, I don't care. It's not a game. So remember, in regards of NASA and Space Force, the Earth is in a solar system and you only have a linear view. You don't have a circular view as to that. And you know that there's the aurora borealis that occurs at the North Pole, which translates to you're not allowed to see that area above unless you have someone who actually can see through that. Well, I've made attempts and a bunch of people didn't want to take me seriously. At some point, maybe they will. I don't know. That hasn't ever, I've made a bunch of attempts, I've made a bunch of statements, I've done a lot of stuff in all these capacities, and instead I've just dealt with all of these people who are biological adults instead. And then I've dealt with the complaints as to, which lets you know in regards of games, that I'm so serious. I'm so serious. Why is she so serious? Well, I haven't had the luxury. And without that background of ever enjoying games, ever, there's absolutely no enjoyment for me regarding games. No matter what anybody tries. You can even take in reference to when I had my son and my daughter. I would only play games with them because they, and when they were biological minors, and that was it. Once, that was it. So only certain times, and it was specifically whatever and all this stuff, just as CDO as everything else. And so, nope, not interested in any games, and I enjoyed my time with my son and my daughter. I did not enjoy any games. I absolutely hated games. They have maybe the memory of the enjoyment they had. That's them, in comparison to my view. So I enjoyed the time I had with my son and my daughter. That was it. When my daughter wanted to do certain things, all right, I enjoyed the time with my daughter, but I have, okay, that's fine, here's that, whatever. I got other things to do now that it's your bedtime, as far as. Same thing in regards to my son, as far as that, okay, now it's that. I have stuff, okay. Make sure that they got what they need and all that sort of stuff. Yes, I love you, Lydia. Yes, I love you, James. I have work to do. This is not a game. And so we would have these discussions and all that stuff, and then that was the end of that. Well, that's the end of that. So after those time frames, I would go and take care of what I needed to take care of because I didn't ever find any pleasure in games, ever. There wasn't anything about games that I ever enjoyed. I didn't see any purpose for them. I didn't see any need for them. I did not have any want for them. There was no desire regarding myself for them, and I didn't prefer them. And so before my head injury, literally, as in reference to through my own choice, the last time I played a game willingly that I had brought forward as to wanting to play a game was literally what would be considered preschool. That was it. That was the end. Anytime thereafter, you can go through my patterns of behavior, no games at all of interest to me. Unless I've watched one, such as a hockey or whatever in that capacity, but then think about that, I enjoy hockey. 1980s, 1990s hockey, to be specific. But I don't play. Because you don't play hockey. That's a misconception. You train. That's training when you do that. So then, in regards of computer games, no interest. Not anything of interest to me at all. whatsoever. My dead ex-husband, when he was alive, he had the news on, which was a channel I usually listen to anyway, and there was this, it was Al Sharpton with Bill O'Reilly, and they had been talking about a game that came out called Ghettopoly. I got it. Not because I wanted to play. No, I just wanted to read it. I just wanted to see that there wasn't any need for me to play. And so that it was, and I won, just as I would win Monopoly. Just won both, as far as that's concerned, and it was as it was. Nonetheless, though, it was just that's that I really don't like games. And I put it away, and I never play it again. It's just that. Not that I really played. So, after my head injury, I have a very small amount of times where, and it was only because of other people in comparison to myself. So, myself, I do not like games at all. I do not have a background that has any enjoyment of that. I also don't like politics. I do have a background in regards to having been born and raised in New Jersey and having attended Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, where my biological mother was a deacon and my biological father was a trustee. And then I went to public school. My biological mother was on the PTA. And I just don't like politics at all. So if in reference to Carrollton, Texas, and Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District regarding McCoy Elementary School, if the little complaints were because I didn't go to PTA. Yeah, because I don't like politics. I really don't. I absolutely don't. No, I don't like politics. Now, if you had invited me to speak, well, that's not politics. All that other stuff, though, that's politics, and I'm not interested in that. That annoys me. I don't have patience for that. If you're going to do that sort of stuff and you just want to sit around, whatever, that's not an interest to me. Sort of thing. I'm about education. I'm about learning. I'm about doing. That's it. Not games at all. I don't do games. It's not an escapism for me because it's not anything that's enjoyable to me at all whatsoever. There's no enjoyment regarding games of any type. Political games, not an enjoyment. Not at all. Video games, not an enjoyment. Board games, well, they're called board games because I'm bored when playing games. As far as any type of other people playing games or their wishes that I would. Just nope. No interest to that at all. I also haven't had the luxury of a childhood that had that. If you have met my biological father, well then you know I didn't grow up with that. You may have met my biological little sister. That's her. 4 years younger. Not me. Huge difference. Huge. And then there's my biological mother, and I don't like politics. So then you have that. So in regards of the coasties, where they would know how the Atlantic area, the oceanic waters are, especially along the New Jersey shoreline, well, if you think that you could play a game in that water, you get edumacated real quick. You instantly get edumacated as to how the Atlantic area, the oceanic waters are. And so if you're about life, you know better than to do things that way. At all. Whether it's a short term or a long term or longer term or longest term. So remember, I've had sight since I was a child. I actually know and I understand and I comprehend. So you need to keep that in mind. I've made attempts. It's not my fault that everybody else has not been up to par regarding maturity. That's their fault for playing those games. I don't like games at all. So, when in regards to the 5, I very much do enjoy I do like that Dagan. She has a her and Greg Gutfeld, they're kind of sort of, that's awesome. I do like that. It's about time, especially because a lot of, and this is in my opinion regarding news reporting or even commentary about news, you just haven't really had that. And you have someone such as Judge Janine bringing that forward as well. And then you have the female Jessica, and that, yes, you go and you need the facts. You need the facts while having that, that comes from and there's that little cutie patootie Marine. He's so cute. It's a personal preference. I do have a thing for Marines, I don't deny that. Those dress blues, when you earn them, that's the other part, is earning them. And those dress blues to earn, oof. You know what it's worth. And so I have my thing. And so he's such a cutie. and then I don't know if he's been working on his Southern accent or whatever. I don't know. Kind of, I like that little twang. It's a personal preference, I remember when I think he was on Gutfeld a few times before the more recent show, and he caught my ear. He did. He caught my ear and said, well, what's your name? Joey McIntyre? What is your name? Who are you? I'm working on my Mal project stuff. And because of the amount of work and what I actually have to do, so, I was up in Washington State dealing with all that stuff as far as the electrical stuff. And then because of the way energy, as far as spiritual energy, when you work certain aspects of, it's not the same as physical light. So it's not glowing, and yet it kind of is. And so, I'm doing so at this point in time, I was, working on whatever I was working on. And then I hear, what did Joey, and I don't know where McIntyre comes from at all. I maybe it's because I was thinking of a song at the time, and that's what it was. I have no clue. Especially back at that point, it's like, who says this? Oh. And then because of the energy aspects as to what I was working on, and then the glow from the screen, which is different than the energetic glow, is like, oh, aren't you the cutie patootie? Who are you? I got work to do. But you're the cutie patootie now, aren't you? Oh, yes, you are. And went back to my work. And so then, for lack of better wording, it's like, okay, hold on, because then I had all my other Medal of Honor art project pieces at the time. It's like, quiet.
this little cutie patootie with this little, aww. This little cutie. Look at this little cutie patootie. Who's this little cutie? Because of the way Melvin. And then I had my fairies and my dragons doing all sorts. This is that little cutie patootie. Aww. Huh. And then so then I, well then, huh? Oh, you got a little, aren't you? That's what you are, aren't you? You're just a little rat. You're a little rat. So cute. Go back to my work after whatever the segment was at the time. It's like, you just, this is internal thoughts. I didn't actually do this in the room, by the way. I was like, aren't you? Oh, this is so little. This is you're so right. And then it was weird because I had a dream many years ago. So in this dream, it was a situation, and then there was a situation afterwards. So I had this dream way back when. I think the dream was somewhere around 1995, maybe. I think it was 1995 or 1996. And then I was reminded of this dream when I was at Fort Sam Houston, which I guess it's not, I guess it's prophesying or however in that capacity, though, than having a vision. And I had gotten in trouble because I got in trouble in medical hold unit a lot. So much. I mean, if you want to talk about paper, the amount of counseling statements, I had some paper. So, don't think it's the same way, but that's fine. I had these cargo pant pockets they were fat. I had some fat pants right there because of I had a big old booty just because I had cushion literally to sit down because of all of my counseling statements. And I mean, okay, sure, now I'm not a barely there A cup or whatever, but it's a very different version, and I wasn't even stuffing my bra. It was my BDU pockets. In comparison to my shirt. And then I had my other pockets over here, so I looked like I had, a little bit of an hourglass figure compared to wearing a corset. And then I had these pockets over here that were stacked, and it's like, okay, I'm a biological female, and I can't say whether these counseling statements, I was invited to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, so, there is that of what's inside a hull as far as that's concerned, because, then there's that buoy situation. So, it would be kind of funny if Cutie Patootie Marine, because I had known some guys in Texas, and well before Texas, and I could get their face to turn red just by some of the stuff that I would talk about. I'll acknowledge it, I kind of want to test that theory, see how if I could get that little Cutie Patootie little cheeks on that. Either that, because, that's a different type. That's a blush in comparison to when I would talk about some stuff and then they would try not to laugh. They would just,
It's not funny. It's not funny. No. So like when I was at the Navy Marine Special Warfare, go outside with some of the Marines and go to the smoking section and stuff. And so they'd have their, whatever, I think they're called greens. And they have the little doohickey mabobs and whatever stuff and whatever, and whatever that's called, their uniform stuff. And so there was a point in time where one of the guys was like, you got to meet her. And the guys were like, there was a few of them, and I was taking a phone call and I was taking messages and stuff like that. The Army captain was like, you got some people here for you. Finished taking care of it. EXO comes out, and EXO's like, you need to whatever. The Marines look over at EXO and go, in a minute. I'm just do. Yeah, and then you have a great day. Thank you. What's up, guys? And technically you are, because you're taller than me. And at that time I was sitting in a chair. And so then we went outside, and one of the guys was like, hey, so this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. And I was like, all right, hi, nice to meet you, shook hands and stuff like that. And I can't remember his name. He goes, so do you remember when you talked with me about this and whatever it was? And I'm like, ish. And so we went on and on about a few things. And so we just kept talking. And the guy goes, I had to bring these guys around so that way they could hear what you had to say. Oh, why? And he said, and he had let me know, he was truthful. He said, because I wanted to see whether or not they could not laugh at some of the stuff you had to say. Oh, okay. Like what? And so it took a few minutes because it was like, well, wait. And so the topics went the way they did. And so these guys, there's, and then their faces got all red. And so, that was it was kind of funny. Their faces got about as red as the little whatever thingamabob as far as that. And I was like, well, I guess you really are Marines now, aren't you? Through and through. And one of the guys goes, what? And I was like, it's your face that got all red. Simple things for simple bites, and I'm pretty simple. So thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure to like my official YouTube channel, subscribe to my official YouTube videos, like my official YouTube videos. Go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. If you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect. You guys have a good day. So now that this length of time for that clip in comparison, and I'm not talking about a Second Amendment type of clip, though I am for that Second Amendment. I know it's not a magazine, however, possibly if it were to be put into words regarding this official YouTube video of mine, that'd be a different type, that'd be a First Amendment type of magazine in comparison to Second Amendment type. You guys have a good day. Today is the 18th of June, 2022.